If you sacrifice a little, you can get a new value. Sony cinema line FX30. I think you've already watched a bunch of reviews and cinematic stuffs of this camera. The basic spec is pretty much same as FX3, that's why people call it the baby version of FX3. And the video performance is more than A7IV and the same as A7S III. But it doesn't have a viewfinder, which makes you think like, it's not for photography. And biggest thing is, this is APS-C, which also makes you think like, APS-C, is it good? Is it okay? Is it worth $1,800? I am a hybrid shooter and I don't know about, APS-C that much, so I'm sticking with A7IV or A7 III. And cinema camera, that sounds like not for me. You guys, hold on. Just wait for the final decision until you hear me out. I've been renting and using this camera for my project, and can I tell you this at the very end of this video so that I can get a higher average of view duration? No, I'm just kidding. I say I might actually buy this camera. Why? How is it as a cinema camera? How is it for video? How is it for photo? Is there any cons of APS-C? Is it worth $1,800 or maybe more, depending on where you live? Why do I like this camera so much? Is this for you? Oh, by the way, I got a haircut, got a new hairstyle. I gotta chop my long hair off. I like it so much. How is it? I hope you do too. So today I'm diving deep in this FX30, solving those problems without any bias, but with being myself. And of course, today's video is not sponsored by Sony. Sony, come on, Sony. I'm doing this much, you're not giving me this much. How long does it take to send me your cameras and lenses for review? How dare are you? Okay, let's stop being a desperate, heartbroken boyfriend. Anyway, I think today's video will be so long. There is a lot to cover, but I promise this is worth watching. So be there until the end. So let's stop the comedy and let's start the video. Enjoy. So today we're gonna go through those specs. This way, I don't know, those specs, but first let's take a look at this build quality. So first, this is overall spec. This is APS-C or Super 35mm sensor. It has 26 megapixel, which is pretty decent amount of resolution for photography. And it has 5-axis image stabilization, dynamic range is 14 plus topped in S-Log3. And it can do 4:2 to 10-bit. And it weighs about 1.42 pounds. It's a little bit lighter than A7IV and FX3. But when you actually hold this camera, you'll appreciate its compact and light body. You know what? First of all, this solid metal body is so cool. And the grip is of course so deep, big, it fit my hand so well. As soon as I grabbed this, I just fell in love with this build quality. It's so, so nice to hold. Although it doesn't have a viewfinder, but I think it's not the big deal. Anyway, recently I take pictures by this screen, not viewfinder, so yeah, it's not too weird for me. More than that, it looks good without a viewfinder. This square body is so good. And let's see those buttons and wheels. So obviously this is different from other alpha cameras. First of all, the position of custom button is different. There is one at here side by shutter button, and 2 and 3 are here, and 4 and 5 at the back. So this has one extra custom button compared to other alpha cameras. And because of that, the customization, is that the right word? The customization got so much better to me. Speaking of customization, this camera has those screws, so you can easily attach the monitor or other accessories like this. And this has 2 recording buttons. One is here on the top and another small one is at the front. And menu button move to the right side. Well, what I like about this camera is pretty much all buttons and wheels are at the right side so that I can control them by my right hand. But it lost the physical mode dial, but it has this mode button instead of it. And you can select the video, photo, and custom setting here, which I thought this was so efficient. And another great feature is this tally light. here like this red light. When you're recording, the red light gets on at 1, 2, 3, 4 point. I really love this feature. It helps you to know whether it's recording or not when you're shooting yourself, and also you can avoid to forget recording. And it has this lever. You can control zoom here if the lens is inner electronic zoom like this lens or Sony 1635 f4G powered zoom lens. Also, you can use this lever for clear image zoom. So the actual usability of FX30 is just great. It's definitely the best I've ever had in Sony cameras. And this cinema line FX30 has amazing great features that alpha cameras don't. First, the custom LUT. Alpha cameras have a gamma assist to show you guys the Rec 719 converted image so that you can see the actual contrast and saturation on the screen. But you can't use it for S-Log3 on this FX30. Instead of it, it has this LUT selection mode. And that you can select those 709 as well as alpha cameras. But with this FX30, you can import your custom LUT. So I actually made my custom LUT for this camera. It has my favorite look, which is kind of contrasty teal and orange. It makes it easier to imagine the final image. This LUT feature is the biggest attraction for me in the build quality. And second, the log shooting is different and it's a little complicated. We used to select the picture profile in this page, but as you can see, there are not 7, 8, 9 in here. And that 7, 8, 9 were S-Log and alpha cameras. So to use S-Log in this camera, we need to go to this main page to log shooting. Select this log shooting and you get 3 options. Flexible ISO is just a normal ISO, which we are familiar with. And this Cine EI is the new feature, which I will definitely talk about this feature with a log shooting later in this video. And this Cine EI Quick is the an auto version of Cine EI, but you can forget about it. Then you pick one of them. Now you can use S-Log3. By the way, I'm gonna talk about how I use FX30, the custom settings, my camera settings of this camera on my second channel. So if you wanna know more detail, just go there and watch it. Just have fun, the chat with me. And of course, this has focus map and aspect marker and focus breathing compensation, as well as other new alpha cameras. Hi guys, are you still here? We just finished the build quality. We have more to cover in this video. So, you ready? Go. Okay, now we are diving deep in the image quality. First, 4K resolution. So this FX30 has 6K over sampling 4K. So that means the actual size is 4K, but the inside resolution is 6K. So basically this 4K is sharper than other normal 4K. Well, as you can see, images are so sharp and clean. But do you remember our old legendary masterpiece A7III has 6K over sampling 4K? But that is full frame, and this is APS-C, so let's compare them a little bit. Well, I gotta say, they didn't use the same lens, so this is not a perfect comparison, but I just wanted to share this result. So in this comparison, A7III looks a little bit sharper. It was with Sigma lens, so that could be the reason our focus wasn't exactly same. But this time, A7III looked a little bit more crispier to me. But honestly, I don't know yet, so definitely I'm gonna make comparison like FX30 versus A7IV and A7III, like a full frame versus APS-C battle again. But if you just look at only FX30, images are so sharp and clean as well as other alpha cameras. I usually use full frame cameras, but I didn't get a particular weirdness about this sharpness. There's no problem about that. But yeah, I need to make a comparison. And this can shoot 422 10-bit. Well, if you don't shoot on S-Log or don't color grade them that much, maybe this 422 10-bit is, doesn't mean a lot. But if you color grade footage is hard, you will appreciate this 10-bit. When I color grade it, I always change the color tone of each area like shadow, midtone, highlights. With this 10-bit, it's easy to control them. This is based on my personal experience, so it's kind of hard to describe, but the boundary of each color is wide. Especially I get the feel most when I use qualifier and HSL curve, which allows you to select the specific color to edit. You can get a good flexibility of colors, and that makes it easy to get the look I want. When you just look at 8-bit and 10-bit side by side, it's so difficult to say which is which. probably I wouldn't notice it. But when you actually color grade it, you will know the importance of 10-bit. So yeah, that is my honest opinion about 10-bit. So some of my friend gave me this giant knife. I don't know if I can call this as knife, but you know, that guy gave me this thing as my birthday gift. Holy crap. Birthday gift. This one. What do you expect me to do with this? And this can shoot 4K up to 120 FPS, but it'll be cropped a little. How much is 38% crop? So this is 4K 24 FPS 60mm, and this is 4K 120 FPS same 60mm. Well, it's not a massive disaster, but the crop factor is not small. But yeah, it's good to have. Sharp 4K slow motion is definitely a strong weapon for filmmaking. But you know what? I will show you the secret way to get out of this 38% crop. That is, use this 10 to 20mm f4G lens. This is also for APS-C. So if you use 10mm when it's 4K 120 FPS, the focal length is pretty much same as 4K 24 FPS 60mm. 10mm is super wide, so even if you get 38% crop, it doesn't matter that much. It's wide anyway. So I think FX30 and this 10 to 20mm f4G lens are the great combo. So next, autofocus and image stabilization. Okay, so this autofocus is such a beast. If you use max speed setting, it's crazy fast, even though when it's f2.8. Well, yeah, this is too much. I mean, it's good for the YouTube and review and vlog stuff, but it's too fast for cinematic expression. So you can set medium, and now it's natural. Motion is good and smooth, but still very fast and accurate. And just look at this, it's crazy. No matter how I moved, it tracked me down completely. This real-time eye tracking autofocus system, I don't know, whatever it is, it's just crazy. It's just insane how I can describe this monster autofocus by other words. Insane, period. Also, this has new image stabilization active mode as well as other new alpha cameras. Alright, so stabilization test. So now I'm filming with the normal original stabilization and using 60mm. So how is it? How is it? All right, now I'm using the active mode, active image stabilization, and of course, same thing, 60mm and same arm length. So how is it? How is the shake and how is the crop? Again, it'll be cropped, but definitely it's so powerful feature for handhold shooting and vlogging stuffs. Again, if you use this 10 to 20mm f4G lens, I'm not trying to sell this to you. I just thought it's great for, the crop management. Anyway, if you use 10mm super wide angle, this crop is no problem. You don't have to care about that at all. So next is low light performance. So I think this is the huge topic when it comes to APS-C. So overall, it's pretty good. S-Log performance is still working great, but sometimes there was a color noise on shadow like this, even though it's not a super high ISO like over 5000. I think it was around like a 600 or 2000, but it gets this noise. So yeah, this noise problem is the, destiny that APS-C cannot avoid. But it's not like a Alpha 6600 series, which is also APS-C. I can say this FX30 is better than other APS-C cameras at noise. But also it's definitely less than full frame, especially high sensitivity camera like A7S III. I haven't compared this low light performance with other full frame low light performance, but I think that difference will be the biggest one than any other differences between full frame and APS-C. But again, I don't think this low light performance would be the reason to hate this camera. As APS-C, as its price, it's doing great job. Okay, so most complicated and not most, but amazing new cinema line feature is Cine EI. First of all, this camera has dual base or native ISO 800 and 2500. By the way, the dual base ISO is when you shoot on them, you can get the best possible image quality out from that camera. In Cine EI, you only can shoot on either of 800 and 2500, so you can't shoot on 1000 or 3000, just 800 or 2500. But that allows you to have the best log shooting performance out from this camera. So when it's on flexible ISO, there is no problem. You can shoot as same as other alpha cameras, but when you use Cine EI, first, you can't use auto white balance. You're gonna have to choose something from those options or use custom white balance. And second, you can change ISO like this even though when it's Cine EI, but that's just for displaying, for monitoring. No matter how you change ISO, the actual recorded image doesn't change. It'll be always the base ISO you choose, either of 800 or 2500. So, only way to change the exposure is shutter speed, aperture, and ND filter. So the exposure management will be a little limited, restricted compared to other alpha cameras. But this Cine EI gives you the best latitude and less noise compared to the normal setting. Of course, I tested. Okay, so this is flexible ISO 800 and f2.8. And this is Cine EI 800 f2.8. At the first glance, it seems there is no obvious difference, but when you zoom in the background, slightly Cine EI 800 has less color noise, especially on this orange. But when I compared flexible 2500 and Cine EI 2500, I couldn't see the noise difference. Let's see another type of comparison. So this is Cine EI 2500 f4, and this is flexible 2000 f3.5. I made them exact same exposure level by aperture to see Cine EI 2500 is better than flexible 2000 or not. It's really hard to say which is better, but at least Cine EI 2500 version has more natural color. Like, flexible 2000 is shifted to green a little. And if you watch the small detail in shadow very carefully, Cine EI 2500 looks a little clean and clear compared to flexible 2000. So as I showed you, there was no huge surprising difference between flexible ISO and Cine EI. But when you shoot under the environment, which you can have the full control of light, Cine EI would be the better ISO choice. Even for my shooting setup, there was this slight difference. So if it's a bigger budget projects like commercial or movie setup, you will get more advantage of Cine EI. But when you shoot outside, just stick with flexible ISO. It's so much easier. And next, let's see the photography performance. Still, I sometimes do this, even though this doesn't have viewfinder. It's just my old habit. This can shoot 26 megapixel raw photo. Yeah, it can shoot raw, which is already enough for me. But it has only single shooting, no continuous shooting or bulb shooting. So definitely it's not for something very hard to shoot, like a wildlife or sport photography. I don't know much about that. Maybe you can use it at least, but yeah, definitely this is, not great option for that kind of use. But for me, I barely use continuous shooting. I just use, single shot, single shooting. Yeah, it's pretty much enough for me. Enough for daily use and for street photography and some, not too difficult landscape photography. But this FX30, I mean, not this camera particularly. It's on Adobe and Sony. Well, now, at this point, December 4th, Adobe Lightroom and Photoshop don't have a compatibility with this FX30 RAW file. So I had to download this Sony's official photo editing app, which works for FX30 RAW, but that sucks so bad. So bad. I can't do what I want in this app. So there were two choices. One, be patient and edit photos in that app, or convert images to HIFF or JPEG files so that you can edit them in Adobe, which you lose a little bit of image quality potential compared to RAW. But that was what I did for now. So seriously, if you know any better ideas, please let me know in the comment. But anyway, photography performance is not bad. More than that, it'll be enough for most of people, although it doesn't have a viewfinder. But you will get used to it. But there is also cons. Well, this could be the pros of APS-C. Well, when you put full frame lens on APS-C camera, the focal length gets 1.5 times crop. So if it's 24-70mm, it'll be 35 or 36 to 105mm. This can be pros if you want an extra reach, but for me, it's not. Because what I review on this YouTube channel is full frame lenses most of the time. So if I use this FX30 as my YouTube main camera, I can't tell you the right information about focal length. But yeah, that problem is only for focal length. So when I want to show you the focal length, I could use full frame cameras, and other than that, I can use this FX30. But yeah, that is something I should think about. And second cons is very similar, but it's a lens choice. Most of my favorite lenses are for full frame. Like I said, you still can use full frame lens on APS-C camera body, but focal length will be different. Especially when I want to use, for example, something like a 24G master, which is the wide angle masterpiece. It'll be no longer 24mm on APS-C. So if I want to use 24mm, I gotta pick some, APS-C 24mm, not this 24mm G master. So this lens selection problem is also cons. And the last one is the low light performance, obviously. Well, this is no need to explain. Compared to full frame, APS-C tend to get noise. Okay, that's finally it. Thank you for still being right here. I'm gonna, I'll be done soon, so yeah, stick with me a little bit more. So, what I said in intro, I say I might actually buy this camera. Now I've been renting and using this for a couple of weeks for my project. I'm using this camera so hard, and I realized that this build quality, design, function, the form factor is the best I've ever had in my Sony life. And it's compact, light, but so easy to use even when it's a solo shooting. And it got those fantastic video specs, but it's relatively affordable compared to full frame cameras. But there is only one thing which makes me don't go for this camera easily. That is, like I said, 1.5 times crop on full frame lenses. That's it. That is the only reason. Because I am a YouTuber, reviewer who talks about, the full frame lenses a lot, but my needs are very unique. So if you're about to buy some Sony cameras in 2022, this FX30 is a new option over A7IV and A7III. Having said A7III is a great option for beginners for a long time, of course I don't change my mind. It's still a great hybrid camera. But if you want to commit to filmmaking, this FX30 would be better. So what about A7IV? Should you upgrade it to A7IV or FX30 if you are an A7III user now? Honestly, I don't want to conclude it right now. I don't want to judge it 100% completely before the comparison. But I recommend FX30 for now, if you are ready to give up photography performance. But yeah, that's the crux of today's video. If you can sacrifice a little, you can get a new value. Are you worried about APS-C? Do you still think APS-C sucks? APS-C is worse than full frame. Full frame is perfect. Full frame is always the only option. Is your sight still cloudy because of the overdose of sugars by the capitalism game? No, I don't think so. I don't think full frame is always the only option. Well, yeah, I gotta admit it. APS-C cameras like A6600 series and a ZV-1 ZV-E10, those camera maybe not a great option for filmmaking. But for this particular FX30, the original common sense of APS-C doesn't apply. Of course, you will lose something if you live with this camera, but also you will get something, and that something has a huge potential to drive your life much better. What is that something to you? Okay, this is it. If you have any questions about this video, don't hesitate to leave a comment below. So today's topic is pretty much it, and thank you for watching this video. If you like this one, show me a thumb and hit the subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.